Will coaching make me inauthentic? I get this question all the time where people are like scared like the boogeyman that if they engage in coaching, they're going to become a robotic pageant patty version of themselves. And unfortunately, that is sometimes the case. You're not going to get that around here because I couldn't make somebody a robot if I tried. I have ADHD. But unfortunately, that happens with some people sometimes when they work with coaches who give them a one-size-fit-all approach where they bring people through like a car on a belt, an assembly line. And today I want to talk about why coaching is actually one of the greatest things to unlock authenticity. And I just want to say this as a quick forecast. This has absolutely nothing to do with whether you work with me. For the 5,000 of you that listen to this podcast and watch us on YouTube every week, I definitely am not coaching all of you guys. And there are thousands of you that will just go and win your pageant from listening to this podcast, which is absolutely amazing and the point of this podcast. But today I really want to break down this limiting belief, which is really what it is, and talk about what actually makes you inauthentic and the pathway to making you authentic, which is what I'll be talking about today. So let's dive right into this and make sure that you stay until the end too, because I have a special announcement. So the first reason why people actually become inauthentic is because most coaches teach people tactics and not transformation. Tactics are the physical art of changing behavior. But the problem with tactics is that they can only change the external and they don't even tap into the internal. The problem with this is that all transformation happens from the inside out. So if you want lasting results and if you want the way that you practice to actually be the way that you perform, which is such a misnomer, without the internal transformation piece of it, it's why you have so many people that will compete for years and years and spend thousands of dollars on coaches and spend hundreds of hours practicing their walk, practicing interview questions, practicing arguably way more than other people who will sometimes just come in and win the pageant on their first try, and it's infuriating to people. The reason is because these coaches are teaching tactics, or these people are practicing tactics without transformation, okay? So if you don't want to be a pageant patty robot, if you don't want to be somebody that starts as an authentic but maybe a little bit naive version of yourself that just doesn't know the pageant stuff, and you want to become somebody that is transformed into the most authentic identity as well as being prolific in the tactical side of pageants, then you have to have an inside-out transformation, which is what we do at Powerhouse Pageantry. And several other coaches, I'm sure, do wonderful things like that as well, okay? And that is also why I made the decision about a year ago to teach way more of the mindset and the identity sides of what we do here at Powerhouse Pageantry. Don't get me wrong, we have a walking course, we have an interview course, we have many different courses and ways that we help people, and the results speak for themselves. However, without that transformation piece, you're going to get people that are banging their heads against a wall who are Barbies, and that's not what we're looking for. And the funny thing is, it's also not what judges are looking for, and I'm going to tell you why. When you meet a person, we make a judgment call. It's proven within less than 2 seconds of how we feel about that person, okay? This is why some of the horrible ways that people treat one another happen in this world, but also you, even as a really kind-hearted, wonderful person, are still making judgment calls of everywhere that you go, everyone that you meet, okay? Whether it is the guy serving you your Jimmy John's, or whether it's a person's voice speaking over a loudspeaker, or whether it's a presidential candidate or something way less serious than that. We make judgment calls about people everywhere we go, even if you don't consider yourself a judgmental person. And part of this is just the way that you're raised. And part of it is we have natural programming of the way that we would prefer things done and the way that we would do things. I'm watching The Amazing Race right now. It's my sister and I's favorite show. And we actually applied to be on The Amazing Race last week. So stay tuned. It's our dream. We'll see if we get in. Obviously a long shot, but hey, you never know what can happen. And so funny to watch people's communication styles. Obviously everyone who's on The Amazing Race are very close. They're usually family, if not a married couple or dating or engaged couple. And so much of the success and the failure of their physical performance actually goes back to where their head's at and how they're communicating. And where their head is at is the primary effector of how they communicate. And then how they communicate is the primary thing that causes their physicality, right? If you've never watched The Amazing Race, it's a series of usually 10 to 12 legs where you start off in America, you end in America, and they're teams of two, somewhere between 11 and 13 teams, and they race all over the world doing a series of mental and physical challenges that bring people to their wits' end. It's absolutely incredible, and if you need something to show you maybe how hard you're not working and how much human beings can actually do on little sleep and little food. It's not quite like Survivor. It's more of like a mental game, as well as combined with lots and lots of running and hot and very cold temperatures. But anyways, my sister and I are obsessed with the show. And what we love to do is we love to study the people on the show. We have this running list in our phone. We have a shared note that talks all about, okay, why do we think that these people were successful? And then also, where did people get tripped up? So there's a series of, there's always like puzzles and these challenges. There's always like a needle in the haystack challenge. There's, like I said, very labor intensive physical challenges, carrying things. And this last one that I just watched, they had to bale all this hay and build it sky high on this thing in the middle of Sweden. And then you're in these foreign countries where you don't speak the same language. You have to hail taxis. You have to get directions, all these different things that if you do not have a strong identity, you watch people crumble right in front of your face, right? So there is a tactical, analytical portion of success, right? Why are people that are usually in their 30s win the Amazing Race? They are physically stronger. They have a better cardiovascular health. The oldest people to ever win the Amazing Race are a YouTube couple that are like late 40s or early 50s, right? And it's not, I might be wrong. I haven't watched every season, but I remember them mentioning that when they had won. And so it's not that a 60-year-old couldn't win necessarily, but typically they haven't taken care of their bodies to the extent of a 30-year-old, right? And then if you have people in, say, their late 20s, typically that's the youngest that are on the show, then you'll find them pretty often pairing up with somebody who's older or forming an alliance during the show with people that are older because they hopefully are aware of the wisdom that they don't carry just because of life experience, right? And so whenever we're pursuing any kind of a goal, you guys, whether it's a pageant or whether it's the Amazing Race or something in between, we have to understand that there's always going to be a mindset, a skill set, and a tool set component to winning any race that you're in, okay? And so this is why at Powerhouse Pageantry we focus so much on inside to external transformation. I was on a sales call with somebody not too long ago that was talking about how they were nervous that coaching was going to make them inauthentic, which is the purpose of this entire podcast. And I was encouraging them that they can certainly go on and DIY it and bootstrap it and try and carry themselves up this big mountain, because all of you guys have a goal that's at the top of the mountain. But here's the thing, like 1% of the 1% of people actually reach the goal of winning Miss South Carolina or winning Miss Texas, Miss Florida, Miss Iowa, Miss Montana, Miss whatever. And we have to ask ourselves and get real as to why that is, because it's not for a lack of desire. Everyone goes into the Amazing Race saying, I'm in it to win it. Okay, guys, if you're watching, I clearly have different hair and makeup on because something happened with our audio, and we have the rest of the video of this podcast, but not the audio. So I'm just going to tap in and pick up where we left off because this is a really great podcast and I didn't want to lose it. So as you guys just heard me, I was talking about the Amazing Race, and it made me laugh so hard because Allie and I, after applying, we've gone back and we've been watching all the old seasons, right? And it just makes me laugh how everybody goes through and they're like, I'm in it to win it and I want to win. And they just didn't seem to have done the preparation necessary to even have a chance, right? Like there will be people, like I said, that are really overweight or that just have terrible communication, or you'll see the people that will surprise you and maybe they're a dating couple that have only been dating for a year, but now I've looked like 10 years later and they're still together, they're still happy, they have children, these different things. And I'm like, I'm not surprised because their communication rocked when they were in a super stressful situation. This is why, and I've said it so many times, but it's so important to work on internal to external transformation, because when you're stressed, when you're in a competition environment, when you're in a stressful environment, when you're even just out of your regular routine environment, this fight or flight inside of you and really the true nature of reality and who you actually are, not who you're projecting to be, not who you're pretending to be, not who you're even hoping to be.
but who you actually are when you're stressed is what is going to come out and who is going to come out. And so one of the biggest things that you can do for yourself to practice before your pageant is to practice being the person that you want to be as if you were already that person. I cannot tell you how important that is to start integrating the parts of you that you want to be true that maybe don't feel true today, but you want to be true in the future, because the brain actually doesn't know the difference between false and real. It only knows what you give it, what you receive. And we have so many different things that are constantly fighting for our attention, fighting for our identity every single day. I encourage you guys to lock in as if you just applied for the Amazing Race, and to see yourselves as if they've already said yes to you. And if they had already said yes to you, how would you be training? What would you be doing on a daily basis? How would you be organizing your schedule? And on the challenge this past week, or what's going on right now at the time of you guys listening to this, we just talked about that yesterday on day 1. And I spoke to them about the first most powerful thing that you can do in terms of your pageant journey is make a decision. Cut off every other possibility that you are not going to win this pageant. Make a decision that you're going all in. Some of you guys are coming on coaching calls, even with me, or a sales call, and you're like expecting me to solve all of your problems. And I'm like, homegirl, you haven't even signed up for a pageant yet. In fact, we actually stopped taking strategy calls with anybody, which God bless you, we love you. But we stopped taking strategy calls with anybody that had not signed up for a pageant yet, because we just knew after taking hundreds upon hundreds of calls that if you haven't made that first basic decision of what the heck pageant am I doing, you're certainly not going to be in a position to make a decision for coaching, which is just a much deeper, more robust decision than simply signing up for a pageant, right? You make one decision, then the next decision will reveal itself, and then the next decision will reveal itself. And if you can practice the art of being decisive, being competitive internally with that goal, and telling yourself, this is mine the second that I make the decision. There's an amazing Bible verse that says, Mark 11:24, that you believe to receive when you pray and you will have it, okay? When my husband and I were believing for his cancer to disappear, we believed that he was healed at the moment that we prayed, not the moment that we got the doctor's report of full molecular remission. We believed to receive at the moment that we prayed as if we already had it, because we did have it in the spirit, and we were just waiting for time and circumstances to catch up. When you believe first, then you will see it. You don't see it, and therefore then you believe it. And if you can learn to implement this into your everyday life of, I'm already the weight that I want, I'm already as confident as I want, I'm already as great of a communicator as I want to be, watch your life change as you take actions from your identity, not trying to get to that identity. And that is how you will every single time have an amazing interview where you never, ever have to worry about being inauthentic ever again.